Patagonia is truly one of the most beautiful places on Earth, and much of it is still untouched. There's massive glaciers, wild horses along the road. It's a land full of beautiful landscapes and surprises. Last time I showed you part 1 of our journey where we explored Patagonia, Argentina in under a week, which is linked here if you wanted to see it, but today we're continuing with part 2. With getting into the park, we had 3 days to explore it, but that definitely was not enough. So if you're planning to come to this area, plan for at least 5 to 6 days, especially if you're doing the long hikes. After a beautiful week exploring Patagonia, Argentina, we crossed the border into Chile to explore the legendary Torres del Paine National Park. Even without the long trek since I got sick during our stay, this park left us completely in awe. There's so much to do for all ages, and it's a lot more accessible than we thought. Here's how we spent our short but unforgettable visit. From Argentina, we crossed the border by car into Chile. It's a 6 to 7 hour drive from El Chaltén, so plan for a long day ahead. The drive itself is completely breathtaking. You're going to want to keep your eyes peeled for wildlife, especially once you cross into Chile, as we saw a lot more animals on the Chilean side. So there are 2 main ways to get here from Argentina, so it's either by Route 40 or Route 7. So Route 40 is longer but fully paved, with a small town halfway where you can stop for gas or for food. Route 7, which is the one we took back, is all gravel. It's going to be a lot slower, a lot rougher, and with a lot more wildlife. What was that? Welcome to Chile and
Bienvenido a Chile.
good roads.
Yes.
We're just driving on dirt roads.
No more dirt roads. Yeah. Okay.
So we crossed the border at Paso Rio Don Guillermo. So it took about 30 minutes, but it definitely could have been faster, as we arrived right when a big tour bus did. So crossing from Argentina into Chile is a lot stricter than the other way around because there's a lot of fruits and things that you cannot bring into Chile, so make sure to be careful of what you actually bring in. You also need to tell your company, your rental company in advance, and there is a small permit fee required, and you need to make sure to do this. Make sure to have all your documents ready for inspection, and your luggage may be inspected as well through the scanner. After a quick luggage and paperwork, we were off to our final destination. Make sure to try to get into the park by sunset. We stayed at the Rio Serrano area, which is just right outside the park, and when we got to Lago del Toro, there was glowing water against the mountains and a full moon that felt really unforgettable. We arrived at Rio Serrano late at night, and this place is going to be a lot more expensive than staying in Puerto Natales, but we think it's absolutely worth it, unless you want to try to get more nightlife during your time visiting this area. The next morning, animals greeted us right outside of our hostel.
Traffic.
Excuse you. Please don't kick us. Cool. There were horses, cows, and endless open fields. We stopped by the administrative center to first buy our tickets, and here there's no reservations needed during the time of our visit. And actually, at the ranger station, they recommended to do the fauna trail, which is the best place to actually find guanacos as well as pumas. The only thing, however, is that you do need a guide for this hike. So at Lago Pejo, which was our first stop to get some food for the morning, the water is insanely blue. So actually one cool thing is you can camp here, and there's like a cafe and bathrooms here that go along with the campsite. So it's a beautiful place to just relax in the morning. It has a beautiful view of the mountains in the backdrop, and it doesn't seem like a campsite or a camp park restaurant. So things here are going to be a lot more expensive than the Argentinian side, so be sticker shocked. So we came from Argentina to Chile, and I think things were at least 3 times more expensive. So it was $25 pizzas, $5 empanadas. How does it feel?
MSG.
So after all of that, we wanted to find some guanacos and maybe pumas up close. So we headed toward the fauna trail, which was recommended by the rangers. And on the way there were actually quite a few places to stop to get a great view of the park. And this was actually one of our favorite easy stops that was just stunning. So on our way to the Guada Park entrance for the fauna trail, we saw a bunch of guanacos grazing along the road. Once we got to the entrance, the ranger reminded us again, if you don't have a guide, you cannot hike because of the pumas. So instead, we headed toward the Amarga entrance to check out what was over there and to see if we would be able to try to hike at least a portion of this. But unfortunately, we weren't. So Amarga entrance is actually really cool because there were a bunch of hikers prepping for their long W trek, which is probably the most iconic hike you can do in the Chile side of Patagonia. So once you get to Salto Grande, it's a very short walk from the parking lot, maybe within 5 minutes. You are going to be able to get there. And so it's a really good, easy thing if you have any older people in your group or any young people that don't want to do a lot of hiking but want to see really beautiful sights. From here, there's also a longer hike to Mirador Cuernos if you want to stretch it into a half day. So this is what we plan to do. So unfortunately, I started feeling really sick during this moment, especially with all the waterfall sounds. So we just canceled the rest of our plans for the rest of the day and went back to our hotel. So once I got sick, the whole rest of the day was a wash, and I spent the whole day just trying to recover. So if you're staying in the Rio Serrano area, there is a few restaurants around here. Expect for it to be very expensive. I think each sandwich that we got ended up being about $25 or $30 each. But there's not many options. So if you're trying to save money, make sure to bring your own food into the park or even into the country. So on our third and last full day in Chile, we were going to do the famous Torres trek this day, but it was completely off the table given I got sick. So we opted for smaller hikes that were not planned, and we just looked this up. So our first stop of the day was Lago Grey. We didn't originally plan to do this because we saw the Perito Moreno Glacier in Argentina, and this one is a little bit of a smaller size, but there's a lot of ways to explore this. So you can either do it from the parking lot and do this easy hike or walk that we did, or you can take a cruise, like a mini cruise, to get closer to the glacier, or you can even kayak. So because we weren't planning to do this, we didn't have any tours booked for those, so we decided just to walk it. So this is an easy walk across the suspension bridge and along the lake shore. And actually, there's a really good cafeteria if you wanted to get food here in the morning or after your stop. So from the lakeshore, you're actually going to see these massive icebergs that float across the water from the Grey Glacier. It's kind of like Diamond Beach in Iceland, kind of, but there's going to be a lot less glaciers breaking off and floating onto the water. But this is a really cool thing because you'll see these huge mountains in the backdrop. You'll see the glacier itself very far away. And you're going to want to do the hike that we are showing you right now to the little island because that brings you closer to both the mountains and the glacier in the back. So the hike to the island viewpoint gives you a fantastic panorama, and it only takes about, I would say, 1 or 2 hours. So we actually, if you follow this on all trails, it'll take you on the island through an out and back trail, but we actually decided to do the full loop around the island because we wanted to see the different views. So I would recommend not doing the full loop and just going to the island viewpoint and making sure to stick to the out and back route because a lot of it has a bunch of bugs and a bunch of overgrown shrubbery, so it's not a very pleasant hike to walk around. So we had lunch at the Grey Hotel cafeteria afterwards. So there's a few options you can do here. You can order things a la carte, which is what we did, or you can do the buffet, which I think the buffet ended up being around $40 or $50 a person, and a la carte was about $20 or $25 a piece. So this place was fine. It was decent, but a little bit pricey, but convenient if you're already here. This place also serves a little bit of snacks or machine coffee if you wanted to grab that before your walk or just for your meal or anything like that. So after all of this, we still had the afternoon, so we decided to go to the Mirador Condor for a short hike. So this hike is really short. It's a little bit steep, and it takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how fast or slow you walk. So it's pretty easy, and you're gonna be one of the only people on this trail. Once you get to the top of the Mirador Condor, it gives you a full 360 panorama of Lago Pejo, the surrounding lakes, and the mountains in the backdrop. You're gonna see a little hostel island that's really cool, and we actually went here afterwards. And if you're lucky, you might see an Andean condor soaring overhead, which is why the name or the lookout gets its name. Say hi.
So you get down because it's hard to kind of.
So after our hike, we walked the little bridge to Pejo Hostel, which is on the island. And this place actually has a really cool restaurant that overlooks the lake and the mountains in the backdrop. And it's a 3-course meal. I think it's about $60 a person. So you can do this and ask for one of the seats outside of the restaurant, which is this pictured here in red, and it gives you a really cool view. But since I was not feeling very well still, we didn't want to spend that kind of money eating something that I wouldn't really enjoy. So we just walked the area. There's not much to see on the island itself if you're not staying here, because the rest of it mostly is the hostel rooms. So I would actually try to stay here if it's possible. It looks like a really cool place to explore the park, but I'm sure this books out a lot ahead, so make sure to just plan for that. And as we were leaving the park, the sun was setting around 5 p.m. or so, and we ended our last night taking pictures at the Puente Weber for sunset. So here the mountains reflected perfectly in the river, and there was just no one else around. There were birds dipping into the water, singing, and it was just a really peaceful way to end our trip in Patagonia. So on our final morning of day 4, we debated heading back into the park in the morning, but decided to take it easy since I was still technically recovering, and we had a long drive ahead back to El Calafate. We grabbed coffee in Puerto Natales, which is a really cool cafe that you can sit down and eat as well, but it was quite packed. And so we just grabbed some coffee and then got some stuff to go and filled up on gas before heading back to El Calafate. I would recommend going here. It had really good coffee, even though prepared to be a little bit surprised at how expensive it is. And this area of Puerto Natales is actually really cute. It is a port town, and there's a lot of little shops and little restaurants that you can check out. So if you want something at night and to have a little bit more nightlife after your time in the park, I would recommend staying in this town rather than staying where we did. So on our way back, we did choose to go Route 7 versus Route 40 because we read online that this is a great way to see wildlife. But I do not recommend it if you are not an experienced driver and comfortable driving on rocky or gravelly terrain, because it's like this for over 2 hours. If you have a 4x4, it will be helpful, though I don't know if it's necessary. It's probably necessary, actually. So on this route, though, we saw a bunch of guanacos, horses, even condors, watching the lambs run around. And it was absolutely beautiful. We stopped multiple times just to take in all of the wildlife that we saw. So driving on Route 7 was one of the best things I could have experienced in Chile. And I definitely recommend it if you are able to make the drive. So if you are doing this, make sure to get a good car, make sure to get full insurance, and make sure to have a good driver and the road conditions are good. So if it's raining at all, if it's way too windy, if there's any chance of a storm, do not go this route. There is nobody on the route. There's nothing on the route. So just be very cautious and aware. And if it's any chance of you coming late at night, do not go on this route. But it's worth it. And that wraps up our very short but unforgettable time in the Chilean side of Patagonia. We are definitely coming back here someday, and we're definitely staying for more than just 4 days. We're gonna plan for a Puma hike next time with a tour guide, and we're gonna definitely plan for the long Torres trek. So if you haven't yet checked out my Patagonia Argentina video for 6 days on the Argentinian side, make sure to check that out. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos upcoming. Take care.